All right. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Lens Life, where we are here with my good friend, John Deprima. Thanks so much for joining us, John.
No problem, man. How are you?
Awesome. So this is going to take a little bit of backstory, but basically, John is a real estate photographer in New Jersey, my hometown. And so a little bit of the background is I started out in Florida, I grew a business, and then I grew a business of real estate photography in New Jersey. And then I moved to Charleston. So business was great in New Jersey. It was going really well. And I was looking to sell the business to someone, and I couldn't find anyone who was interested in this thriving business that was doing really well. Customers lined up, system in place, everything. And then John's brother is Mike, and Mike and I did some things in high school together. How old's Mike?
He is, man, I guess now he's 33.
Okay, so he's 4 or 5 years younger than I, and we knew each other through church. And I was recording a wedding, which is something I'm not comfortable doing.
Yeah.
So, and Mike and I also, both of us went to Full Sail he went for film, right?
Yeah, correct.
And I went for audio. So we had that in common, and I was doing this wedding, and I knew he was good at video. So I asked him to, basically save my butt. And we're driving down to the beach, and I'm telling him like, hey, I can't find anyone to take this business. It's awesome. And he's like texting away, and like 20 minutes later, he's like, my brother will do it.
Yep, that's how it started.
And I was just like, all right, great. So I had never met John before. Joe, what was that? What was going on with you at that time? Like, I've never even heard this story actually from your perspective.
I mean, before we did it, before I started doing this. I mean, my brother and I, we had our business together, which was basically video production is what we started, because he went to film school. I was a theater major, which that never panned out. And it was one of those things where you get to school and you see the nitty gritty of it, and you're kind of like, I don't know if this is really for me. And I had gone to visit him at Full Sail, great school. I mean, a lot of serious work they do there. And I mean, they do it around the clock. And I fell in love with the behind the lens aspect of the business. And from that point on, we started working together. I went to New York Film Academy and did a summer course just to get the basics that I didn't know. And I was just in the restaurant business then, trying to, put money away to, find my next step. And that's when this great opportunity obviously almost fell into my lap. And, the rest was history. I mean, when we first started, I was, out on the road with you. I remember doing those days sometimes where it was kind of just learning. But, from that point, which I guess was 2015, I think it was back then when I started and really made the transition to doing this full time. So, the rest is history.
Nice. So did you have any real, like, all right, so you went to that college thing that was kind of like a intro to film, right?
Yeah, it was an intro to film. It was basically people who were in other professionals. I think it was for, people who had already completed college or trying to look. So it wasn't really kids who were still in college. And I was probably in my mid, I think I was 25 at that point when I took that. So almost 11 years ago now, man. But, I had been doing film stuff with my brother, what he could teach me. And I just wanted to learn in an academic environment, and it was really great. And I got the basics, and then, I went from there. But it was really my understanding was more in video than it was in photography. And of course, the principles line up pretty well, but the still image versus the moving image are two different things. So and especially when you're editing.
Would you say your knowledge of photography was on the lower side getting into this?
I would say in terms of for real estate specifically, yes, it was, because I had no idea. I went with you the first day that we went out, and you trained me. I mean, I basically just watched you and, rode along in the car with you, going to property, seeing what you did. And that was really the first that I saw of the real estate aspect of it. But, I mean, I understood at that point from doing video, I understood the f-stop, I understood aperture, I understood ISO, I understood, lenses to an extent.
Right.
But, then translating it over to, okay, well, how does this work in a still image when you're dealing with an environment that I mean, for the most part, you're not going in and you're lighting a scene like you would in video. So I
Right.
really had no idea how is this gonna translate into, being economical with my time
Right.
and not spending, 10 hours at a place lighting each room before I shoot it. So that was kind of my basic knowledge, was what I knew about the principles of photography, really, like about light and about, how a camera works. That's pretty much what I came in with.
Yeah. I think it's super encouraging. So, my one of the goals with Lens Life and this podcast is to educate, motivate, and inspire others. And I come
Of
across a
course.
lot of people who are professionals who got into it with like zero experience. So it's just so encouraging. And for me, I had nothing. Like I knew I had like none of that background that you had going into it,
Yeah.
and yet was able to grasp onto it. And I still don't consider myself this like techie guru who can
Oh yeah.
talk about
Me
shutter
neither.
speeds and all that, all the technical sides of it. But for what we do, I think it's pretty awesome that we can walk into any room and shoot the way that we shoot and know that it's going to
Yep.
turn out awesome. Um, but also, you know, cool to see that you had no real estate background going in. So that's
Oh
like
no,
it's a
none.
different world. How
Zero.
was, what was getting to know the real estate world like for you?
I mean, that was kind of a client relations sort of thing for me. Now, coming from the service industry and restaurants, I was a waiter, I was a bartender, I was a restaurant manager. At that point, I guess I had opened three restaurants from day one. So I had been in the nitty-gritty of that sort of thing, or at least involved in that. So, talking to people and dealing with clients was something that I was used to, but I had to learn how to kind of answer these questions or kind of deal with, because each agent is their own personality, depending if they're a smaller agent or if they're an agent that has a team and does really high volume. You're dealing with different egos. So that was something that, not that I had to learn, but I kind of had to adjust to what I already knew from the service industry in dealing with, this new kind of client, for me at least.
Yeah, realtors are they're an interesting species. But
Yep.
it's all about the relationship. It's
100%.
you know, I know that a lot of the clients that I had were probably nervous coming to work with you, and you've done amazing transitioning with all of them. Um, but I'm sure they were nervous, like, oh, it's not Phil anymore. But I'm sure
And
they've
of
come.
course, I did get that in the beginning. Of course, once you moved to Charleston, it was kind of like it was me and my phone. You know what I mean? It was people, it was just texting and texting. I got your name from Phil, or I got your name from this person. So it was kind of, you know, relearn, learning everybody's different. Each agent has a different personality. And I just shot with somebody for the first time yesterday, and I'm shooting the full home for them tomorrow. But this is someone who just, I worked with recently, because I moved from place to place in Jersey, and you know it's about learning kind of what they like. And that was the thing, and that's kind of the first thing I asked her before I even took a shot. I had her take a look at my, my
Yeah.
screen, and say, all
Smart.
right, this is how I'm framing this. Is this your kind of style? I just need to kind of learn. So that's kind of how I, after I got a few under my belt,
Yeah.
it was then kind of each new person, it was kind of just trying to find out what they like to see, because
Mhm.
it's almost, you can show them what you think is the right way to do it, but then, in the end, it's always, are they happy with it or not? Are they going to make me come back and reshoot it or not? It's learning what they like to see in their kind of style. And, I find that interesting, and I like being able to tailor to different people. And I think they appreciate it as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you got thrown into this. Like you just went right into it. How long did it take you to feel comfortable behind the camera doing this, learning the
I
angles, all of that? Like how long?
I I think, I don't want to say a full year, but I know after I had done it for a full year, that's when I saw a difference, was when I realized that, okay, I can shoot a full regular home, like let's say three bedrooms, 3 levels, finished basement. I can do that in an hour. If they're ready, like, I know what I'm doing. Once I figured out, okay, I can always do this within an hour if they're ready, because I know my camera at this point. I know what angles work. I know my lens, and I have my process. And as long as, it doesn't always happen. Of course, when the homeowner does their job, or the agent does their job to get it as picture ready as possible,
Right.
then that's when I kind of realized, and it was at the year mark where I realized, all right, I have this down. I'm working like a machine at this point. I know my equipment. I know, what I need to get. And I think it was that one year mark for
Yeah, and
me.
that's kind of the mastery of the skills and the interaction with your agent, and
Hmm.
then you're able to handle those like weird things, like the homeowner's not ready, or you've got you get there and it's a mess, and then you're able to
100%.
like take it to that next level of like handling all these issues that always happen.
Hmm. Yeah.
um
And I think that's, I don't know if I am different from other, I mean, not different from you, but fortunately, from that time that I took over, I was consistently busy every week. And obviously, the more you work, the more you retain from yourself and your own working habits, and see what works. Obviously, it would be harder for somebody who does real estate maybe on the side, or
right.
as a supplement to their photography business. This is one thing that I do. In For me, and I'm sure for you too, this is my concentration. You know what I
Right.
mean? Real
Yeah.
estate is my concentration. That's my specialty. Anything else that I do, whether it's, someone wants a regular photograph, or I go take a landscape somewhere else, or I do an event, those are all supplemental to the real estate at this point.
Right. And I do want to touch on that a little bit later, but one of the reasons I was like super amped to have you on is, in my book I talk about, basically three different paths that you can take as a real estate photographer. Um, if you know how to do everything, if you can edit your own photos, you can go the route of doing everything yourself. Um, that's plan A. Plan B would be maybe outsourcing your processing. So you're shooting, you're sending your photos off, but you're still handling everything else, like your scheduling, your billing, your customer service,
Hmm.
things like that. Um, and then the third would be just going to work for an outfit where you go and you shoot, you send your
Hmm.
stuff off, and then your hands are free of it. You don't do customer service, any of that. So you are probably someone in a like weird scenario where you're straddling B and C, where you've got your own thing, sending it off to processing, and you also work for a company just as a shooter.
Hmm.
So can you talk a little bit about that? What do you like about B? What do you like about C?
So, having I guess the way that I phrase it is that I have private clients, and then I have clients through a service provider.
Yeah.
So I have clients that work with me directly, and most of them at this point, because of the way my schedule is, everybody interacts with me personally. It's who do they get me through, or who do they work with. Now, working with the service provider that I work with, Jump Visual, they have they're great to work with. One, because they have deals with certain offices, especially in where I was before, which is Hudson County, New Jersey, which is where I was. I was living in Hoboken, and there's a few offices that they would have, certain deals with. All right, this office is going to pay for all their agents' photography. It's going to go through Jump Visual. So that's how I made contacts, and I would take care of certain offices for them. Um, I guess before I moved out of Hoboken, they had a Hudson County team, and I ended up being the lead on that team with a few other guys who we would, pass jobs back and forth if one couldn't take it or not. But that was the great part about that. And in terms of that, I did not have to invoice people. I didn't have to deliver their pictures. I didn't have to edit their pictures really. Um, I didn't, I almost, in the beginning, I really didn't have to make the relationship either. It was
Right.
just, hey, we were paired up because I'm working in this area. This person needs photography. And fortunately, you know, if I work with somebody for the first time and they like the way that I work, if you make yourself, almost indispensable, if you will, they continue to come back to you and say, oh, you should use him through this company, use him through this company. And
Right.
that was something that was great relationships that I built through that. Now, on the other side, my own business, my own LLC, if you will, those clients, they work through me. I have a processor who then does those pictures for me, and then it's my billing, it's my pricing, it's a lot more decisions and a lot more moving pieces. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things that I have to, like today, I only, it worked out that I only shot photos for the service provider, Jump Visual. So I came home, I knew I was going to talk to you tonight. It was easy because all I had to do was put a few notes, count the pictures, and send it in their FTP, and I'm done.
Right.
If it was my own, it's checking, making sure that, because I'm paying for every picture that gets edited, I am making sure, okay, whittling down, I took 40 shots, getting rid of, they're paying for 30, getting rid of 10, which ones serve a double person purpose, which one is, you can see these two angles, always making those decisions, putting those notes and things like that. So, well, it's always a little bit more, work when it's your own thing, which of course I don't mind. But I think that is also what keeps me so busy, is because I have these both streams of clients
Right.
coming at me.
So you might make more per job um, on your own versus the service, but it also might require more hours per job in terms
It
of.
is, yeah, and you know what, and it actually it's a little more work in terms of what I have to do to kind of get that, not that much work, but then of course you always have to, you keep your spreadsheet, how, if this person's a return client or someone who does a lot of volume, okay, well, I'm going to be shooting for them a couple times a month. I make sure I bill them at the end of the month instead of it's those certain little moving pieces that you always have to, you know
Yeah.
think about. The good thing with the service provider though is I work with them through my LLC, which is also something that, someone looking to do this should think about as well. So I'm a 1099 employee with them. So I'm a freelancer. They basically pay my LLC my lump sum of my payment each month.
Right.
So in terms of that, it kind of then also then just filters into my own business when I do, getting into taxes and stuff like that. But, this is something that someone who's self-employed, as needs to, having all these streams go into one
Yeah.
section makes it easier to realize, all right, well, the LLC is my business. I pay myself. That's where everything goes in, whether it's from the service provider or from the private client. And it just, it works for me that way. So I'm fortunate in that sense.
So I want to get back to something with Jump Visual, but real quick. So taxes is a huge thing. I wrote about it a couple times. It took me at least 4 years to remember or realize that I need to put aside a portion of every shoot.
Yep.
Did you have a similar learning curve with that, or were you smart from the get go?
Um, you know, I think I take this again from my service industry background because I would always get, you have to do the same thing when you're waiter, bartender, or whatever. If you're not a salary employee, you're getting tips, and in that sense, you owe taxes on that at some point. You know
Right.
what I mean? Because that cash tip, I mean, gets reported certain percentage. So I was kind of aware of it, but it has taken me kind of to this point. Let's say I started 2015, now it's almost 6 years, right? It's taken me to this point to really kind of get a grasp of, all right, this is to project in my mind, all right, this is the average of what business I'm going to do this year. And
Right.
then if you can afford an accountant or you go at H&R Block or whatever, I think it's worth it. Luckily, I'm able to, I have an accountant and we worked out, our estimated. So
Yeah.
I pay a quarterly estimated at this point, but you're always operating. And I mean, I just, my camera failed on me the other day and I had to purchase a new one just so that I could handle all the other jobs. So you have things like that you never planned for. That's $2,000 out that I wasn't
Expecting.
expecting to spend, which may be my taxes, maybe my payment, maybe, it's all part of my business operating account. But it's little things like that. So I think having some sort of putting something, I mean, in the beginning I was getting whacked every time. I thought that, okay, I thought I saved enough, and then it would come back and be like, oh my gosh. I mean, I remember calling you one year and be like, I owe what, I think I owed like $20,000 that I had to come up with somehow. And
Yeah.
it was like I was sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
But, that happens to you one time and then you kind of learn your lesson after that. But,
Yeah.
I try to figure out, and I think, spreadsheets are important, I
Yeah.
think personally. So when it's my personal clients, at least I kind of, you know, I add up everything for them because I have to invoice them, but I'm kind of tracking and seeing where I was each month, year to year. Okay, am I doing compared to this? Obviously, 2020 was, that who that's not going to compare to anything that I, see. But luckily, I mean, thank God I was, still working because real estate at least was deemed essential, at least in New Jersey. I don't know about the rest of the country,
Yeah.
but I was fortunate to be safely working through most of it, starting out with vacant and that. But it's things you can't plan for. So I think it's always good to have that little bit of cushion in your business account or wherever for those reasons. Because
Yeah.
I'm not really a numbers person, I gotta say, and especially when it comes to taxes, I don't. I know what he tells me what I owe, and
Yeah. I think it's really important to just put away for taxes just from the beginning, every paycheck you get or whatever. But also, it's hard to do when you're starting out, but you need to have a cushion during the dry season because it is
Yep.
cyclical. So that's always a big lesson too, is, being prepared for the winter. Your winter's a lot longer than mine, but for both of us, it comes every year where there's a
Hmm.
couple of months where your income, it might be 50% of what it normally is, or
Yeah. Sure.
so that's just a hard lesson to learn, but a huge one because once it does slow down and you have that, you can enjoy that time off, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. one hundred
Um,
percent.
so how many shooters at Jump are there, like in your area?
In my era, well, when I was doing the Hudson team, there was maybe myself and three others, I think, in that area, and then there was Bergen County, which is above Hudson County. There's a good amount of guys. I think there's probably for their whole, because they do New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, I
Connecticut.
think.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I was wanting to get at is, have you come across agents who they only want to work with you?
Yes,
Yeah.
and I mean,
Like not in
again,
a
I think it.
not in a conceited type of way,
Oh
but like
no, oh no, not in a
they
conceited
just
way,
get
but
along with you.
it I exactly, and that's the thing, and that's what I think is so important. And I talk and I'm going through this because I am working with this new agent, which is in the area, and it's important to one, I guess, make them feel special in
Yeah.
terms of like, all right, you're not just another person. This is not just another shoot. And when you get to know somebody, you know what they like. And I think they do appreciate that. I mean, I did, we all have things that come up. All right. Sometimes I do video for events and things like that a couple times a year. My brother and I, that's part of our other businesses, event video. So we're away for like 4 or 5 days, obviously not this year, but when that's up. So it's in my schedule. I leave. People, obviously real estate still goes on. So you have someone who's a backup for you. In that sense, I know that they would, when I would come back, they would complain about the person that kind of shot for them. And, of course I inquire why, because I want to know what I'm doing right versus what this guy was doing.
Right.
But it was their explanation was, oh, he told me he only had 30 minutes to shoot. So we needed to, the way it is, what is the way it is. He didn't give me a chance to do this. I wanted them to take this shot. And they told me that angle wasn't going to serve its purpose or do anything good for me. So he wouldn't take it. So I think my thing is just don't be a diva.
Yeah. Or
You know what
me.
I mean? And that's the thing. I like to think that I know what I'm doing, and and I have the track record that speaks for itself, but you don't need to remind somebody of that all the time. You know what I'm saying? And I don't like to have an ego on a shoot. They're paying you to be there. Look, if they want an angle or whatever, they want a picture shot. Sometimes I say, this is the dumbest thing someone's ever asked me for.
Right.
It's like they want to, does it have a nice view? But then it's like from this weird angle that's not even if I think they may be misrepresenting or whatever. I say, all right, I'll give my opinion on why that's not possible or whatever. But at the end of the day, they want the shot, take the shot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that's the thing, being able to roll with what these people want. You can say, look, I manage expectations, obviously,
Right.
because if people think one thing and it'll never look that way, because of the type of property, the lighting, you know,
Whatever.
the equipment,
Yeah.
or whatever. You tell them why you don't, you manage their expectations, but if they want it done, you do it the way it is, you do it the way it is or the way they want it. I
Yeah.
just think keeping the customer happy, and that comes from my service background. I mean, I got screamed in the face by enough people eating in these restaurants that I learned how to just, you know, rolls off my back, take criticism. This is what they want, no problem, get it done.
Yeah.
So I think that's my advice, and I think that's why I do well and people stick with me or wait for me to be available to shoot their property, because they know how I work. My work is consistent, and they know that they're gonna, I'm gonna listen to what their requirements are. So
Yeah. I
it's
think
important.
you can't underestimate the power of communication, one, and just kindness. Like it
Yeah,
goes such a long
100%.
way. I've met a lot of photographers that like are not nice, but they make a lot of money still. So you
Yep.
bringing that to the table just like makes you stand out a ton.
I will say be that way, but also stick up for yourself and
Yeah.
stick up for your work,
Yeah. It's a hard line.
because it is a hard line, and sometimes I find myself, I mean, I had to do it today, have to bite my tongue. I'm there on time, and of course we're late, but I always text, I'm running late, my
Right.
ETA is
Yeah.
this, I'm really sorry, I got held up. But
Yeah.
when they don't show up or something like that, sometimes I bite my tongue. But you have to remember too that, and this was something that really changed in my personal life too, in the way that I spend my money, because I'm self-employed now. So I see, when I spend $20 on something, or you know whatever it is, I know that money that I'm spending directly equates to physical labor that I put, in doing this jobs, because none of my money's on a salary. None of my money comes from jobs that I do. If I don't do that job, I don't make it. So you got to stick up for yourself when it comes to people canceling at the last minute,
Yeah.
or they're, you show up and nothing's ready at the house, or they want to take advantage, well, this price or that price, or they don't agree with the price that you set, or you need to know your value. And I think being good to the customer, as well as, you know sticking up for yourself in terms when if you feel like, you got to, I mean, that's really what it is. Stick up for yourself.
Yeah.
Don't get rolled over.
Yeah. And would you say that kind of when you reached maybe that year mark, it was easier to stick up for yourself
Yes.
because you had that confidence?
Yeah, you had work behind you. Plus you had, especially if you, I mean, you're working in different areas. Most of these people know each other. So they know if there's a really top selling agent and you're working with them and you're shooting all their properties, there must be something about you that they, okay, well, if this person uses them, I
Yeah.
should probably use them. Like I want the same kind of thing. So, you know, that's it. And once you get that confidence, and it does take that, once you have the confidence in your job, that's where then you can say, all right, I know what I'm worth.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, I've had people saying, well, this is the first time, I we're working together, do you think you can give me a discount? Sorry, this is my price. I know that this is my price because everything that I charge, I know what I'm paying for processing. I know what I'm paying in travel. I know what I know I have to pay taxes on top of that. So what little bit of that is profit left for me to put in, do you know what I'm saying? To put in the bank. So that's when you're like, I'm sorry, this is my price. If you change your mind, I'll be here, but I can't make that work for that price. I
Yeah.
apologize.
That's great. Sticking up for yourself. I don't know if I didn't tell you this ahead of time, but if you were to look back starting, is there anything you would have done differently, like from the get go?
Um, oof. I kind of think I think I would have known a little more about my organizing the administrative side of it
Yeah.
when it comes to the spreadsheets and kind of being on top of invoicing and making sure you're charging people the right amount of money and getting your price point the right way with your out of pocket and all that kind of thing. I think if I knew that a little bit better in the beginning, it
Yeah.
would have been a little bit easier. But I mean, I've always done things, even in restaurant business, whatever, like you said, trial by fire, just throw myself in and do it and figure it out.
Yeah.
And I mean, there were places in the beginning I had to go back because I didn't do it
Sure.
the way that they expected or the way that they, I guess, were used to. So
Right.
and that at that point, I was a little humbled because I knew I was just starting this. So I can't be that guy that like I said, know your worth. At that point, I didn't know what my worth was because I didn't know was I even going to be good at any of this? Am I doing it right? Like I would be sweating every night before I would, go to my next day because it was a good opportunity. And that was the thing. It was a way for me to kind of, change my life at that point a little bit and enter a new phase. So
Yeah.
it was good. I I don't want to say I regret, but maybe in the beginning, and I think you have to do this. I did some services for free, or
Yeah.
I did like cheaper add-ons and sometimes I'll do that even now though with good clients. If I come up with a new product that I'm offering, whether it's like the Zillow 3D tours, which really, after I bought the camera and everything, cost me nothing, just
Right.
time, right? If it's a really good client that I know they do volume, hey, I got this new thing. I know you're not doing it. If it's a smaller house, let me do this for you. You see how you like it. And then, if you want to go forward, we can do it as an additional add-on. Like that's not a problem. But, obviously in the beginning, you kind of do a lot of stuff for friends for free, or you do this for free or whatever. But,
Yeah. I think
you always learn.
one of the things I found the best workaround for that is just telling them like what the price is. If you don't like, maybe you don't know what it is, but just always saying that you're hooking them up, but typically this would be
Mhm.
$50 or $100, but you're such a great client. I really want to, I think this will benefit you for this property, so that they
Mhm.
know they're getting that value, and then also in the future what it would be.
And you know what? And that goes back into the working for yourself, working for a service provider, and that can work for you in two ways. Because if you're working through the service provider, their price is their price. No one's going to argue with you about, well, this. I'm sorry, you know what? you know, can you come and like, I don't know if this would be good with a drone, but can you like take a shot? And if we get it up, that like if it's there, like, and it doesn't work, can you let me know? I'll be like, personally, I don't know if that'll work, but I'll tell you, because if I fly the drone, they're going to charge you the full price for it regardless.
Right.
So that kind of works in your favor, where it's like you don't do something that they're not going to want to pay for, or all right, well, I have no choice. But then it also works in my benefit for my own, private clients, because then if you know your numbers, you have the ability to kind of, okay, guess what? You know what? This is a really big property. You pay for 50 pictures. I'll throw in 5 drone shots for you or something like that. And you can do that. Whereas, the other company, you can't really make those handshake deals or whatever. Do you know what
Right.
I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it can work for you in 2 different ways when you have a set price, but that comes with knowing your numbers in
Right.
terms of, for your own business, what you're charging. And that's probably one of the hardest things for me, is what to charge for certain services. I find it hard to kind of walk that line of, okay, is it worth it for me? And is it at the same time at the right price that'll get them to go for it?
Right.
And that's always that line that I feel like I'm walking, where it's like, I don't want to do something that's not worth it, but I also don't want to charge them too high that they're going to say, nah, maybe not this time.
Right. Yeah, I guess it depends on a lot of different things. If you want it to be a no-brainer, if you want it to be a reach, like for
Mm-hmm.
like when you and I do our high-end videos,
Mm-hmm.
we don't ever want to give that away because we know what's involved.
Oh yeah.
Like the amount of time on location, the amount of editing. So, those prices for me, like, if anything, I want to bump them up because I know it's worth. But that
Yeah.
Zillow 3D, I can walk around the house in 10 minutes and it's done,
Oh
So it's
yeah.
awesome.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'd happily charge a cheaper price for that to get someone to order it every single time.
Yep.
Making, let's just call it $50 versus 100. If I get 50
Sure.
bucks 100 times throughout the year versus 100 only, 20 times, is that the same thing? But you know what I mean?
I know what you're saying. It's
you
like
know,
you're getting, they wouldn't, they're exactly. So that's the thing. If you can, and I did that with a certain office too. It's like, if I would normally give with the drone, let's say 10 shots for
mhm,
the add-on price. For this group, I'll say, hey, look, I'll do, if you want to add to this package, I'll give you 5 shots, or I'll give you X number of shots for this amount of money. And usually then they'll take that, they'll take that deal
right.
every time, versus maybe they'll take the other one, maybe they won't.
Yeah.
So, but that's the thing. I know what it costs me to do it. So
Yeah, exactly. What would you say the greatest reward for you has been doing this?
I would say my independence, I think,
Yeah.
in terms of, I was never a desk guy. I don't think I ever had a job at a desk, or a corporation or anything like that. I mean, there are obviously beautiful benefits to working for a company and things like that, but it was just, I don't know if it's my attention span or what it is. It's just not, it was never in me.
Yeah.
It was never in me. So this kind of gave me that. I mean, there are the challenges to being self-employed, of course.
Right.
It's a lot. It's work. You pay a good amount of taxes. You know you don't have benefits. Unless you're paying out of pocket yourself for them. You don't have the employer helping you with that. But I I almost sometimes think I'm harder on myself than an actual boss would be.
Yeah.
But again, I have my freedom to really say, all right, I have something with my family this weekend. I'm not working, or I'm choosing to take, I'm slow at this time. So I'm going to take this week, and this is when I'm going to go on a vacation. Or it really is the being your own boss aspect of it that really made my life different,
Yeah.
I would say. And for the better, I would say.
So I don't know if these kind of run into each other, these answers, but the theme of Lens Life is the impact of glass. So for you,
Mhm.
what has the impact of glass been in your life? I guess just with everything, not just real estate
Yeah.
photography.
I mean, if I can say one word, I think the impact of glass, it for me is freedom. I would say, in terms of, you know, this piece of equipment get you know gives me a purpose and gives me, a way to make money, a way to express myself, a way to um, network with other people, gives me a skill that other people want to use, so I think it gave me the freedom to kind of do things the way I want.
That's awesome. Very,
Yeah,
very
I mean, I'm
um,
really happy, and I see my when you said what does glass give you? What was the question? What is
the impact of glass.
the impact of glass? I see my Sony G Master 16 to 35, and that's an expensive lens, but I use it every single day. And when I think about the investment and everything, I love that lens. I can see it. I can see its field of vision in my mind right
Yeah.
now, and that's what it's all about. Like, I know what something looks like through that lens. So
Isn't
that's
that weird?
that's it is so weird. I go into people's homes, or I see something on the street or whatever. I'm like, I know what that would look like through my lens. It's just it comes with the job, and it comes with knowing your equipment. But that's the picture that's in my head when you said that to me.
That's cool. Yeah. I'd love to have you back on again. We've talked about a lot today, but
Absolutely.
you know, you and I chat all the time about video, I think is a big topic.
Yep.
Additional forms
Yep.
of income, not just photography, the drone,
Hmm.
the 3Ds, like you can make twilights, you can make so much more money by doing all
Hmm.
these different things. And is just a beautiful thing. But for now, I just want to thank you so much for being on
You got it,
tonight.
man. Thanks for having me.
And, hopefully we definitely talk to some people about this industry and what can be done. I'm just so grateful that Mike texted you that day and that this turned out to
Yep.
be what
Me
it
too,
is.
man. Me too.
The
100%.
impact of glass for me is huge, that you and I, connected, and it's been a fun journey, and I'm looking forward to all
Yep.
that's coming down the road.
I agree.
So, thanks again, and thanks for everyone who's watching. Take care.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Take care. Thanks, Phil.